Mia had often heard tales of the luxurious massages offered at high-end spas, but had never mustered the courage to explore anything beyond the basics. Life had been particularly overwhelming lately, and she was desperate for something to ease the tension. That's what brought her to Haven Wellness Center, a renowned haven praised for its ability to make every client feel pampered. Today, though, she wasn't here for an ordinary massage. She had booked something more specialized, something deeply personal, a breast massage. Nervous but curious, Mia stepped inside the spa. The air was filled with a soothing blend of lavender and vanilla, while soft melodies played in the background. It was exactly the kind of environment she hoped for, yet her heart raced, and her palms felt clammy as she approached the reception desk. "Welcome to Haven Wellness Center. How may I assist you today?" the receptionist asked warmly. Mia's voice was barely audible. "I have an appointment with Caleb." The receptionist smiled knowingly, nodding as if this was entirely ordinary. "Of course, Caleb is one of our best. He'll take excellent care of you." Mia's stomach fluttered at the reassurance. A friend had recommended Caleb, raving about his unmatched skill and ability to make anyone feel completely at ease. Still, the idea of such an intimate experience left her feeling equal parts nervous and intrigued. After a short wait, Caleb appeared. He was taller than she had expected, exuding an effortless confidence that immediately put her somewhat at ease. His sandy brown hair framed his face casually, and his warm, professional smile made it clear he took his work seriously. "Hi, Mia," he greeted in a calm, soothing tone. "I'm Caleb. Let's get started. Please follow me." As they walked down the softly lit hallway, Mia's mind buzzed with anticipation. They entered a serene, warmly lit room where soft amber light from candles flickered gently, creating an atmosphere of complete relaxation. The massage table was inviting, layered with plush towels that promised comfort. "I can tell you're a little nervous," Caleb said, his voice calm and reassuring. "That's perfectly normal. My goal is to make you feel comfortable and completely relaxed." Mia nodded, offering a faint smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Caleb stepped back, giving her space. "You can undress and lie down under the towel. Take a deep breath. This is your time to unwind." Once he left the room, Mia hesitated, her heart pounding. But eventually, she disrobed, sliding under the soft towel on the massage table. The warm fabric against her skin was comforting, but the anticipation of what was to come filled her with a mix of nerves and curiosity. A few moments later, Caleb returned, his movements quiet and measured. She sensed his presence even before she opened her eyes. "We'll start slow," he said softly, his hands hovering gently over her shoulders. His touch was warm and deliberate, working in smooth, rhythmic motions that immediately began to ease her tension. "Is the pressure okay?" Caleb asked, his voice filled with genuine care. "It's perfect," Mia murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. As he continued, his hands traced deliberate, soothing paths along her shoulders and sides, skimming just to the edge of the towel. His touch was firm yet tender, creating an environment of safety and comfort. Slowly, her initial anxiety melted away, replaced by a deep sense of relaxation and serenity. "What do you think so far?" Feel free to share your thoughts or suggestions in the comments. I always aim to improve, so if you notice anything I could tweak, let me know. Also, just a quick note. This script was created using AI due to language learning goals and some tech limitations. Thanks for understanding. Mia hadn't felt this alive in years. As Caleb's hands moved closer to her chest, her heartbeat quickened, not from nerves, but from something far more profound. His fingers grazed the edge of her breasts, then paused. He looked at her with quiet patience. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Her breath caught for a moment. "Yes," she whispered, feeling a mix of anticipation and excitement. With deliberate care, Caleb folded the towel back, allowing the warm air of the room to brush against her skin. His hands moved gently, reverently, cupping her breasts with a tenderness that surprised her. Then, with precise, rhythmic motions, his fingers began their work. Firm yet delicate, his touch sent waves of warmth rippling through her body, melting away tension she hadn't realized she carried. Mia felt her breathing deepen, her body responding in ways she couldn't ignore. But it wasn't just physical relief. There was a deeper connection in the way he touched her, something intimate and almost unspoken. It was as though his hands were not only soothing her muscles, but awakening something she had long forgotten, something buried deep within her. Caleb's breathing remained steady, professional, but there were fleeting moments when his touch softened, lingering just slightly longer than necessary. The boundary between relaxation and something more profound began to blur. Mia found herself immersed in the sensation, her skin tingling under his skilled hands. "Caleb," she whispered, not even sure what she was asking for, only that she didn't want this moment to end. He paused, his hands still for just a beat, as though he was gauging her emotions. Then, leaning closer, his voice brushed her ear like a soft breeze. "How do you feel?" he asked, his tone gentle and full of genuine care. "Good," she managed to breathe. "More than good." A small smile curved his lips. Without saying another word, he resumed, his hands now moving with deliberate purpose. His fingers traced the gentle curves of her body, exploring each area with care and attentiveness. Every motion was slow, methodical, and tender, making her feel entirely seen, entirely cherished. For a brief moment, Mia opened her eyes, catching a glimpse of Caleb's face. His expression was focused, his gaze intent, yet there was something deeper in his eyes, something that sent her heart racing all over again. It wasn't just his skill, it was the connection between them, a pull that went far beyond the surface. The session lasted longer than she had expected, but she didn't mind. Time seemed to fade as she surrendered to the warmth of his touch, the comforting rhythm of his hands. When he finally finished, his fingers lingered for just a moment longer, a soft, affectionate gesture that left her feeling both relaxed and exhilarated. Caleb gently draped the towel back over her, his movements as tender as they had been throughout the massage. "Take your time," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "You deserve to feel this at peace." For a moment, Mia lay still, her body humming with the aftermath of the experience. She didn't want to move, didn't want to break the spell that had enveloped her. But when she finally sat up, her eyes met Caleb's. They held each other's gaze, neither needing to speak. Everything they had shared lingered unspoken in the charged air between them. "Thank you," Mia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Caleb's smile was soft and understanding. "Anytime," he replied. As she left the spa, Mia's thoughts were consumed by the memory of Caleb's touch, the way her body had responded, and the undeniable connection that had passed between them. She replayed every moment in her mind, every sensation, unable to shake the experience or the attraction she felt. It had been more than just a massage. It was the beginning of something new, something thrilling. And as Mia walked away, she knew this wouldn't be the last time she found herself in Caleb's care. A week had passed, yet the memory of Caleb's touch lingered vividly in Mia's mind. This time, as she walked through the doors of Haven Wellness Center, the nerves she felt before were replaced by a quiet eagerness. An anticipation buzzed under her skin, urging her forward. She had booked another session with Caleb, and the mere thought of seeing him again sent her pulse racing. When she arrived, Caleb greeted her with that familiar warm smile, though this time his eyes seemed to linger on her just a fraction longer. "Welcome back, Mia," he said softly, his voice as soothing as ever. "Shall we begin?" There was something different in the air between them, an unspoken understanding, a deeper connection that had grown since their last encounter. As they entered the private room, the soft glow of flickering candles wrapped them in a cocoon of golden light, heightening the sense of intimacy. Mia undressed with a new sense of calm, her movements slow and deliberate. She lay on the massage table, draping the towel over herself, her heart pounding in anticipation. When Caleb returned, the atmosphere shifted, becoming almost electric. His hands found her shoulders, their warmth familiar, yet charged with something more. His touch lingered longer this time, each movement more deliberate, as though he was silently communicating through his hands. He worked his way down her back, his fingers skillfully kneading away tension while igniting a slow-burning awareness deep within her. Caleb leaned closer, his breath brushing against her ear. "You feel tense here," he murmured, his voice a quiet caress. "Let me help you relax." Mia's breath hitched as his hands slipped beneath the towel, skillfully massaging her lower back and hips. His movements were intimate but unhurried, each touch purposeful, designed to make her feel both at ease and acutely aware of him. When his hands reached her sides, his fingers grazed the edge of her breasts, sending a ripple of sensation through her. She froze for a moment, her breath catching in her throat. Caleb paused, his hands hovering just above her skin. "Do you want me to continue?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Yes," she breathed, her voice trembling with anticipation. Gently, Caleb folded the towel away, revealing her completely. His hands moved with reverence, cupping her breasts softly before beginning to knead and massage them with expert care. His touch was a perfect balance of firmness and tenderness, each circular motion igniting waves of warmth that spread through her entire body. Mia's breathing deepened, her body reacting instinctively to his touch. A slow tension began to build, one she hadn't felt in years, a heat that seemed to radiate from his hands and fill the room. As Caleb continued, his hands grew more confident, his touch more intimate. Mia's breaths turned heavier, her body arching slightly toward him. She felt the warmth of his breath as he leaned closer, his lips grazing the curve of her neck. The first kiss was barely a whisper, so soft it almost didn't register, but the spark it sent through her was undeniable. Mia gasped softly, her body tingling as his lips moved lower, tracing a deliberate path along her shoulder and down her back. Each kiss was measured, leaving a trail of warmth and electricity in its wake. "I've wanted to kiss you like this," Caleb murmured against her skin, his voice low and filled with emotion. "Since the first time you came here." Her breath caught at his confession. Turning slightly to meet his gaze, she saw an intensity in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. Without thinking, she reached for him, pulling him closer until their lips met in a deep, hungry kiss. The moment was charged, every touch, every movement layered with meaning. Mia didn't know where this connection would lead, but in that instant, nothing else mattered. Caleb's kiss began slow and tender, his lips brushing against hers with a softness that made Mia's heart melt. As the kiss deepened, the tenderness gave way to an undeniable passion, their connection building like a slow-burning flame. Caleb's hands, still tracing her body with deliberate care, began to explore with a growing urgency. Each touch sent waves of warmth coursing through her, igniting every nerve in her body. A soft moan escaped Mia's lips as her fingers gripped Caleb's arms, pulling him closer. He broke the kiss for a moment, resting his forehead against hers as he caught his breath. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion and need. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling yet certain. I want you. With that, Caleb's hands moved lower, his caresses filled with a tenderness that made Mia's chest ache. He kissed her again, this time with unrestrained passion. His lips claimed hers as his hands roamed, tracing the curves of her body with an intimacy that made her feel utterly exposed yet completely safe. Each kiss, every touch, sent her spiraling deeper into a world of pleasure she hadn't known she was capable of. Her hands slid to his chest, fingers tracing the firm lines of his muscles as she pressed herself closer to him. The heat of his body against hers was intoxicating, his breath hitching as their kisses grew more fervent. Caleb's movements were deliberate, yet fluid as he guided her onto her back, his hands never leaving her skin. He kissed her neck, his lips trailing to her collarbone, each press of his mouth sending jolts of electricity through her. Slowly, his lips moved lower, worshipping every inch of her body as his hands continued their exploration. Each touch was precise, deliberate, as if he was discovering her anew with every movement. When his lips found her breasts, Mia gasped, her fingers tangling instinctively in his hair. His mouth was warm, his tongue teasing her sensitive skin with slow, deliberate circles. The sensations were overwhelming, her breath catching as his touch awakened a fire within her. His hands worked in perfect harmony with his lips, massaging and teasing with a rhythm that left her utterly breathless. The room was filled with the sounds of their ragged breaths, Mia's soft moans mingling with Caleb's quiet murmurs of appreciation. Every motion, every kiss, seemed to draw them closer together, the intensity between them building to a crescendo. Caleb paused briefly, his eyes meeting hers. They were dark with desire but filled with awe. "You're beautiful," he said softly, his voice carrying a raw, unfiltered admiration. Mia smiled, her heart swelling at his words. Reaching up, she pulled him into another kiss, this one more passionate than the last. Their connection felt tangible, an undeniable pull drawing them together in perfect synchronicity. Time seemed to blur as they explored one another, their hands and lips seeking new ways to stoke the fire burning between them. Each kiss, every touch, deepened the bond they shared, transforming the night into something timeless. As the hours slipped away, they finally found themselves wrapped in each other's arms, their bodies entwined in the quiet aftermath of their passion. Mia rested her head on Caleb's chest, her fingers drawing soft patterns on his skin. "I never expected this," she murmured, her voice laced with emotion. "Neither did I," Caleb replied, his voice equally tender. "But I'm glad it happened." Mia's lips curved into a soft smile as a sense of contentment washed over her. What had started as a simple quest for relaxation had turned into something far more profound. In Caleb's arms, she felt cherished, adored, and completely alive. As sleep claimed them, their warmth and connection wrapping around them like a cocoon, Mia knew this was only the beginning. What they shared went beyond the physical. It was rooted in something deeper, something undeniably real. And for the first time in a long while, she felt whole. Mia couldn't stop thinking about Caleb in the days that followed. His touch, his presence, the way he seemed to see right through her. It was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. So a week later, she found herself back at Serenity Spa, anticipation buzzing under her skin. When she arrived, Caleb greeted her at the front desk. That same warm smile lit up his face. But this time, Mia noticed something different, an air of polite detachment she hadn't seen before. "Welcome back, Mia," he said, his tone friendly but professional. "I see you've booked another session. Shall we get started?" Mia nodded, a small flutter of nerves mixing with excitement. As they walked to the private room, she tried to gauge his mood, searching for any sign that he remembered their last encounter as vividly as she did. The massage began like before, Caleb's hands moving with the same practiced expertise. But this time, there was a distance in his touch, a precision that lacked the lingering intimacy she had felt during their first session. Halfway through, Mia couldn't hold it in any longer. "Caleb," she murmured, her voice tentative. "I wanted to thank you for last time. It meant a lot to me." He paused, his hands still for just a moment. Then he stepped back, his voice calm and measured. "Mia, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I take pride in making my clients feel cared for." His words stung, though she wasn't sure why. It felt different, she ventured, hoping he might acknowledge the connection she had imagined between them. Caleb met her gaze, his expression kind but firm. "You're not the first person to say that," he said gently. "And I don't mean that to hurt you, but I've had a lot of clients over the years who felt something more during their sessions. It's a natural response, I think, when someone spends time making you feel good, making you feel seen. But, Mia, this is my job. What happens here has to stay here." Mia's breath caught, her chest tightening with disappointment. "I see," she said softly, looking down at the massage table. Caleb hesitated, as if weighing his words carefully. "I hope you know it's not that I didn't care about making you feel special. I did. But I'm married, Mia. My wife and we have a life outside of this place. I need to keep my work and personal life separate." The weight of his words settled over her, and Mia forced herself to nod. "Of course. I understand." When the session ended, Caleb stood back, giving her space. As Mia dressed and stepped out into the soft glow of the hallway, she saw him waiting by the door, his professional demeanor firmly in place. "Thank you again," Mia said, her voice steady despite the swirl of emotions inside her. "I'd like to book another session for next week." Caleb smiled, a polite but distant gesture. "We'd be happy to have you back." Walking out into the crisp evening air, Mia felt a mix of sadness and resolution. She knew now that whatever fleeting connection she thought they'd shared was just that, fleeting. But maybe that was okay. For the first time in a long while, she felt something awaken within her, something she hadn't realized had been asleep. Caleb had reminded her of her own worth, of her ability to feel desired, even if it wasn't meant to last. As she turned the corner, she decided that next week wasn't about Caleb anymore. It was about her, about reclaiming her confidence, her sense of self, one step at a time.